Hello and welcome back to the Godzilla 65 YouTube channel. I'm William Shemaisky and welcome to part 2 of my Godzilla vinyl kit building tutorial. I'm working on the Godzilla 1971 vinyl kit by Atelier. So as you can see from the last time, I've actually put down a base color on him. And you can see where I have filled in some gaps. This is just a simple color I picked up at, I think I got it at Michael's. It's just a charcoal color. I know sometimes people will actually mix up a color for him. So this is what I've got so far. I did some work on the dorsal plates, and I'll go back over those with some dry brushing and maybe add some browns to it. It looks a little bit too gray, but they were darker in the movie, and so anyway, you can see some of the stuff I did on the back. And so I also did some work on his eyes. So I'll go back over those with some gloss coat, make them shiny, and I'll turn around to the other eye, and you can see that I did some work on the other eye. So I did some work on his claws, and like I say, I'll go back and do some dry brushing to add some more detail. Some browns and stuff. I'm not gonna do a whole lot to this kit because it's a small kit, so I will add a little bit more detail to it, but I'm not gonna do a whole lot to it, just to show what you can do with just a basic kit. I did some work on his toenails, and I'm going to do some more dry brushing on them. This is probably not going to be a suit accurate paint job, but it'll be good enough for me. And that's what you got to keep in mind when you build a kit. You know, build it for yourself and make sure you have fun doing it. And because I found if I've labored on something for a long period of time, I don't really enjoy it when it's done. So you can see where the paint covered up the epoxy sculpt I put on there. There are a few mistakes, but nothing really big. I forgot to mention in my last video that I guess for the advanced modeler, I didn't do it on this kit because it's small, but you could actually take some Liquitex modeling putty and go around some of the seams where the dorsal plates were glued in. They weren't that bad, so I didn't mess with it. There are some spots on here that, let's see, for instance, I think that right there, I think I probably could have filled in that area. It looks like it's a kind of a gap there. Oh, right, it's right here. Okay, it's right there. Let's see, let me set him down here. It's right there. There's a, I don't know if you can see it or not, but on this dorsal fin there is a slight gap there that I should have probably filled up with some modeling paste. I don't have any of that yet. You can also use like model putty that comes in a tube, and you can just squirt it out and then you work it in the seams with a toothpick. That also works. So for bigger jobs, I like to use the epoxy sculpt. And so anyway, I think I covered that pretty good. So let's go over some of the things I use. I use some inexpensive paints, and this is just a charcoal color. I picked that up, it worked okay. And then of course I always have to have some black, and I had some brown, and got some silver that I mixed up to do the dorsal fins, and add some gray and some browns in that. It didn't turn out quite as brown as I wanted it, but it's still okay. These are like about $1, around $1, and the Craft Smart paints, they're a little cheaper. You can get those at Michael's. So you can see basically this is acrylic paint, and these are all flat colors. I don't use any gloss colors when I paint Godzilla. So also I have some detailing brushes, but this is actually a dry brush. It's pretty worn out, and what you do with that is when you're going to dry brush detail, you just get just a little bit of paint on the brush, and then you want to take it to your model, and you kind of want to lightly brush over it just to add some detail. This is just an example, so I'm not going to really do that. So just want to add a little bit of detail, some highlights. Just want to lightly brush across it. So I haven't done any of that on this yet, but that's a worn out paintbrush I use for dry brushing. And so I also have some fine paint brushes for detail work. Like I use these on his claws and his toenails. And you could get these at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, or Walmart might have some too. Mostly I shop at Hobby Lobby and Michael's. They have some pretty good stuff. Okay, so another thing I wanted to go into is since this paint is inexpensive, what I have noticed about it is that it will come off of the model. I've actually gotten water on a model that I painted with this paint, and it's like it rubbed off a little bit. So what I do now is just, instead of leaving the paint job like it is, I will take some matte finish. It works pretty good, and this is made by Acrylic, and it's permanent protective matte finish, eliminates glossy sheen, it's non-yellowing, moisture resistant, and it dries in minutes. So you can get this at Walmart in the paint section. That's where I got it. I've used this and it works pretty good. To me, it really doesn't get out all a shiny, say if you did paint Godzilla with some shiny colors, to me it does not really eliminate all that. So I also got this, is a crystal clear acrylic flat, and you can also use this on a vinyl kit that's been painted with acrylic paints. And this also says that it is a flat color, but one thing I need to point out is that it's better to use really thin coats when spraying your kit. So I recommend maybe trying it on something else before you actually spray your kit, to make sure you don't to make sure it's not glossy looking. I accidentally got too much on one side of a Godzilla kit I was working on, and it left it kind of glossy. So I would say that you would want to be back from your model kit, probably just to do some test sprays across it, and just light coats and let them dry. Let each coat dry. You might want to do a few light coats on one side and let it dry, because if you get too much on there and it's not dry, you will have some glossy spots in certain areas. And if this has happened to anybody else, I'm thinking that that's why, because I just got too much of it on there. Okay, so I think I covered everything on this tutorial. You can see I've gotten more finished work to do, just a little bit more detail to put into it. And this is going to conclude part 2 of the Godzilla 1971 Atelier model kit tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and the next video will be part 3, and it will be the final video for this series, and I will have him completed, and hopefully he'll look good. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.